Elon sent an email to employees, told them not to worry about the stock stuff. And he said, long term, I believe very much that Tesla will be the most valuable company on earth.
Well, let's kick off there. Nick, can you tell us about this bottle of bourbon?
Oh, yeah. So it's a gift from a little members only bar we're a part of called the Reading Club.
We
I mean you.
That's so kind of him to say we. It's so
Go with
nice.
it, guys.
It's so nice. He's like, yeah, totally.
Well, Armand, you're a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I was literally instantly declined the moment I applied.
Just like an algo auto ban. Wait, you didn't even read it.
Dave Hoffman got accepted. He doesn't even live here.
Everyone got accepted. I only have one person other than myself that joined me in the.
You guys probably mentioned finance or crypto in your applications.
Yeah,
I give you the band. So this is, let's see, it's Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. It's a private barrel selection, and this is they bought a bottle for each member, and it's all from the same barrel. So it's actually 125 proof. Holy smokes! Wow. I wonder why this thing's.
I'm sweating.
I thought this was a lot smoother
it's hot
when
in
I had
here.
my first beverage that you guys made.
Anyway,
Yeah, no.
so
First one you had was an old fashioned.
Yeah, that was really
And,
tasty.
and like when you use a bourbon like that to make an old fashioned, it's going to be fucking good. I love these private barrel editions that they do. They do them at all the Consortium Holdings restaurants in San Diego, and like Eric and I love like Raised by Wolves. You go there, they always have like a special wild turkey or a special Buffalo Trace that they've done this like private barrel edition for. They're always so good. By the way, we need to go back to mezcal soon. That's our origin story.
it's true. We
We haven't had mezcal in a
I
while.
love mezcal.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
Twist my arm.
Let's get a holiday cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers,
Yeah.
boys.
This is the last cheers before our
I know.
what are we calling it? Dopamine detox. So I summarized
New year, new brain.
no alcohol, no nicotine, no social media, no TV, no Bloomberg/podcast. Bloomberg was for me. But
No caffeine.
Just cut everything that's tweaking your brain.
okay, yeah, that was just a quick summary.
I just think it's important to be, I like that you're being specific about it, because if we don't tangibly define it, it's so easy to be like, it's fine.
I'm gonna send you
it's
all a
fine.
memo. Don't worry.
All right.
Okay.
I know you need to be.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in the
Heard
Discord
it.
as well. There's
So
more
the
stipulations.
Discord is in. Everyone who's not in is banned. So everyone is effectively in on the dopamine detox, which is really exciting. And I mean, a lot of things are up for debate, though. There's a very good debate going today about caffeine. I mean, people.
You mean you had a debate with yourself?
First of all, the jury's out.
The jury is not
The jury
out.
is so out on coffee.
You have 3 days.
People that drink coffee live longer, have more sex,
Same
make
with
more money.
Same with the red wine. Should we allow drinking? Let's just allow drinking.
I love how someone
no
you
retorts.
announced the dopamine detox in the announcement channel on the Discord, and someone spelt out nope.
Yeah.
No thanks.
That's actually awesome.
Smart.
It was an insta ban as well.
Community is a lot smarter than we are.
All right, should we do a alfalfa round or?
Falfies?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. I have a few things. I did some tax loss harvesting.
Well, wow, that is exciting.
Well, you have
today.
gains?
No, I don't. I have losses to harvest. It was small things, but like had a little bit of like ST ETH that was still more down, so I sold it and bought it back. Yeah, did a bunch of that. Been staring at this ETH BTC triangle. So
But real quick, did you generally have gains this year, or are you just literally creating more losses? Like
I'm trying to take the paper losses.
you're trying to take as much
Yeah,
as you can
for
the
sure.
year. Okay.
Carry
mean,
them over next
Got
year.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
It's a good idea.
I get
should
it.
Sell the 100 ETH I accidentally bought the other day.
Whoops.
Yeah, just sell it, buy it back. I mean, like, you know, it's not guaranteed that your bags will go back up, but paying taxes is guaranteed.
Yes.
So, I mean, I swear, like, my whole last 2 weeks of the year for the businesses and, you know, investments is all about optimizing taxes. So, like, you know, if you're like, our business is on a cash basis accounting, so we're just spending everything we can without running out of cash. So we get to like
So hold on,
very
like-
close to running out of cash.
I know the
on purpose.
the NFTs. I know there's no wash sale rules. Does that also apply to coins?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Sure does.
Yes, sir.
I did.
And
it
this
with all my
might be the
coins.
last year that
Yeah.
happens. So,
I think it is.
yeah. So if you haven't got any Bitcoin,
So you could
Especially
like
after
you could buy a
FTX.
penguin from yourself for like 100 ETH and then sell it to yourself for like 2 ETH and then harvest.
That's called tax fraud.
That's
But-
different. That's
yeah,
Where's the line?
I don't know. I think you should report all your wallets. Like, I don't know. But what do you mean? What's the line for tax fraud? Or
Yeah.
that's the line. You just
No, the
mentioned
line
it.
is if they the line is if they get you.
Just asking for a friend.
If they get you, then you're over the line.
Unfortunately, my entire portfolio is basically USDC and like one penguin at this point. So
That's fortunate.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're in a great spot.
Yeah, you're
not-
doing
not
much
much
better.
to harvest.
Yeah, that didn't sound unfortunate. to
But
me.
you were about to talk to us about a triangle.
Yeah. So if
Looking
you
at triangles?
if home gamers want to pull up the ETH BTC chart on TradingView,
Oh,
you can look at it on the daily or the
Good-looking
weekly
triangle
basis. And you draw some like one descending, one ascending line. It creates a triangle, and that triangle is going to come to a point around January 10th.
Steven
And
drew a
I
different
already
type
got
of
my
line.
lines drawn in there.
All right, so so this triangle has been forming for like since August, arguably since June, and usually when these things come to a point, there's a breakout either up or down. So I'm trying to think of maybe playing this breakdown is what
You're predicting
I'm
breakdown.
predicting breakdown. I think most of us are. So I want to play this. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way to play. So
The best way to play triangles is to not play triangles.
yeah, but I want to gamble. I'm not. This is not part of the investing thing. This is like a little degen bag. So I go long ETH, or no, sorry, short ETH, long Bitcoin. But do I do them even bags?
I think you should go short
I mean,
USD and short Bitcoin USD.
Yeah, but
I feel like the total 3 to Bitcoin chart looks almost exactly the same. There's not a pretty triangle, but it looks like it's going to dump. And then instead of selling like a really good asset, you can just sell complete dog shit.
I mean, the invalidation point on this would be pretty quick to identify, but we're talking about going from over 0.07 to like 0.055. So it looks like a 40% gain is what upside, and that's with no leverage. So anyway, that's what I've been looking at, and we'll see how it goes.
What's your target?
Well, I would think I would take most of the profits at that 0.055 mark, but it could certainly go well below that.
Steven, where's your imaginary line
This
drawn?
looks like a 1.3 to 1 risk reward.
All right.
I'm vetoing this trade now.
But like on your risk, you're putting the validation point at what? Like
above like a recent
0.08?
above the high or something. Well, there's no invalidation point in a triangle. It's just like triangles fake out all the time. You know,
Has anyone looked at?
I want to go back to
Apparently
gambling.
people are-
You're talking about investing. I'm talking about gambling. All right.
apparently people are very pro triangle on this podcast. I didn't know I couldn't be anti triangle here. I'm sorry, Nick. Gamble away.
All right, thank you.
YOLO. Max leverage.
I'm going to Vegas in January, so I'm just trying to
Having
warm
fun.
up the muscles here.
having some fun.
Yeah.
So hold on, I'm a
End
complete.
of the year.
I just want to make sure our listeners know that triangles aren't for kids.
Correct. That they're not for anyone.
Well, my
probably.
understanding of them is limited, but like I don't use technicals or charts. So like when I see a triangle, what I normally see is people are saying that there will be a breakout either up or down.
Yeah, it's basically like something's gonna happen.
Something's
You're
gonna
like,
happen.
It's like
Thanks.
playing war at the casino.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, am I understanding that correctly? And you're just saying that directionally we don't know which way it's going to go, or are you saying that
you
like
don't, but, like,
sometimes it just like stays flat?
And I want to guess that it
Thinks
goes
it's
down.
going down.
Next thing is going down.
I think.
Anyway,
Has anyone followed our boy Jam's cryptic tweet threads lately?
jam croissant.
Jam,
Yeah.
croissant.
Yeah, the croissant.
Jam croissant.
I know this.
How do you
one.
pronounce it actually? Jim?
Jam.
Chem.
Jim?
Chem.
I thought
Jim.
you were asking about how to pronounce croissant.
Croissant?
Croissant.
Croissant?
Croissant.
Thank
I
you.
think You're
Yeah,
making our
leave
listeners proud.
three
No, give
of
me
the
that.
words
Give me
out.
that jam
Three
alpha.
of the-
I haven't heard the recent ones.
We have French listeners.
Yeah, apparently.
But
we've
break it
verified
down because
that.
it's a cryptic song he posts.
Everything
so can
that
you
he
just
does,
give me like
everything he does is so cryptic that I'm not even
He
confident
tweets
in like
only in emojis about complex volatility topics.
Not a fan.
this is gonna be a rug pull for Nick. So I'm watching like him tweet cryptically all the time, and this one in particular on Christmas Day he tweeted like a poem about like the upcoming volatility squeeze. And like at first I'm like trying to analyze what the hell is he even predicting. I've gotten to the meat of it, I think, which is he's predicting a put squeeze happening. Sort of like the antithesis of what happened with GameStop.
Okay.
It's like when everybody's buying puts, that makes dealers position themselves to be hedged against all those puts. So they need to be short, essentially. That's the hedge. So
Because they're selling puts.
they're selling puts,
which
so
is bullish.
no. Like it puts them short. Like the dealers are short because they've sold puts.
Right.
So dealers are short, so they need to short the underlying to hedge it. And he made a good point back in 2021 that he retweeted. He retweeted himself. He goes like, imagine what happens when Wall Street Bets finds out that like you can squeeze on the downside as well. Like how everyone piled into GameStop and made the price moon. It's like, imagine what you can do when you just like put the shit out of Tesla stock and you can just drive it into the ground.
Man, you weren't kidding. He's got like 7 verses on
A
this
poem,
tweet.
yeah. It's like a whole song or something.
It's Trade and Vol in a Winter Wonderland, I think. Is
Yeah, and I don't know if you have the capacity in the next 20 seconds to really analyze what you're taking out of that song, but my thought is it's about a put squeeze. In either way, here's how I'm playing it. Like what he's because I've listened to his like interviews and stuff too. He's actually like fairly non-directional. That's like his whole thing. What he's saying is that there's going to be volatility coming. What we've seen in the last month or so is like ETH has been pinned to 1,200. A lot of like S&P has been like kind of stagnant.
VIX has been around
VIX,
20,
VIX is at 20,
yeah.
and he's like, that regime is going to flip over and there's going to be more volatility. So I've been thinking about how to play that, and I in TradFi I found this cool way that I'm interested in doing it. So like obviously I'm like short everything in crypto. I'm short a lot of shit stonks. But what I want to do is give myself like very limited exposure to this thing, but with like asymmetric upside. So what I want to do is buy calls on the triple levered NASDAQ.
Okay.
So it's already 3 times levered, and then I'm going options on it.
Is
Okay.
something that
after
exists-
this plays out.
No, this will be in advance of, basically Chem is saying that this is going to be the new regime in January, like a new volatility regime.
But he's saying it's going to go down.
Yeah.
first.
So it's going to be, I'm going to buy calls on the SQQQ, which is the triple levered short NASDAQ, and the triple levered long. And if one side hits, I'm going to be fine. Because I don't know.
Oh, you're
direction.
buying a straddle.
But your
Yeah.
downside exposure on both of those is
It's
He's going
so low.
He's going long
Interesting.
vol. He's going
Going long vol, and like, let me tell you that the price is so muted on these options
Interesting.
because we've been in like a low vol environment for the last 3 months.
Sounds like you can just sell some long vol and buy some short vol, though.
I've been selling
Just
long
believe in
vol
them.
for the whole year, and this is Jem's point, is like selling long vol was the way to win over the last year. That is no longer going to be the case. Because
Selling vol in general, especially selling short vol.
what I mean is like the tail of the vol. Like
Yeah.
I was always doing that, and what he's saying is like there's going to be a vol event where you don't want to be short the tails of vol.
His tweet is like, I was reading it. He's calling for like a negative gamma squeeze. He's calling for
The put
dump.
squeeze.
He's calling for Santa Claus.
Did he give
dump.
time to it, like a timeline?
I mean, he's been calling like basically Christmas through Jan 10 for a while.
It's very
actually.
specific.
Yeah, it's very specific. And he even called Feb 15 actually to get back short after you go long Jan 10. So if you want to get really
Short, long, short.
yeah, short into January, then long January, but then get the fuck out and
Jesus, this is
February.
not financial advice, by the way. Literally talking about-
I'm just telling you what a
Yeah.
baked good on.
But the
Twitter
vol is
says.
so cheap on both sides. Like that's how I'm doing it. Like these contracts are slightly out of the money. I was looking today, like the February 17th expirations are like $20 a contract, like really, really fucking cheap. So like these are the type of things where I like to take a flyer. I'm always selling options, but here is the moment where I'm like, yeah, I'll throw a flyer.
some good alf.
I mean, Bitcoin lowest volatility ever, I think, last week when I looked. Like ever in the history of it. It was all-time lows.
Wow.
It made me want to like buy some long-dated vol, especially on the downside. I didn't do it because I just like to pontificate and not do things. But,
You'd rather be right than rich.
Yes.
yeah. I haven't changed any positions. I'm underwater on my bond trade, but I don't care. I feel like that's going to come
This is your
around by
TLT
year-end.
purchase.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to talk to you about
Don't
that.
worry about that.
What
Just
do
get
you
out of that
talk
thing
about
right
that
now.
a
First of
little
all, what
more.
are you
Get
thinking?
out of that
Like,
thing.
when I
What am I thinking?
well, when I read your so you in the I think it's the money channel of our Discord, you described your outlook of like the upcoming 12 months, and when I read that, I'm like, that should not be long duration.
The upcoming 12 months is like I'm predicting like basically peak and long rates and then like a recession end of year. Like recession is very, very bullish for 30-year bonds.
I agree, but then you also said that is not your view. Your view is that like the economy is going to outperform the stock market, so that would mean that like the long end of the yield curve is just going to sort of.
By the time the recession's here, the bond is already priced in the recession and there's no trade anymore. Like you have to get ahead of the market's realization of that. Like I don't think that the long end of the curve is going much higher from here throughout the year. I just
I disagree. The Fed's whole mandate was to try to get real rates along the whole curve positive.
Sure, but like inflation break evens like 5 years out are already way below the 30. There's a big difference between the short end of the curve and the long end of the curve.
I
like
agree,
I said, I
like-
don't want to fuck around on the short
I
end.
think you're like
because-
trying to play a flattener, and instead of playing the short end coming down, you're playing the long end coming up, and I think it's wrong. But it's your funeral.
playing the short end coming down. I think playing the short end coming down is suicide. I don't think the market is pricing in like the full extent of the Fed hikes and everything, and I don't think they're pricing in like inflation being sticky, right? Like I'm playing longer end because
So
that's
what brings the 10-year, 20-year, 30-year lower? Like that just basically means that we get a recession in
Recession.
Q1 or Q2,
no
which isn't going to
recession in
happen.
Q3, Q4, 2024 early. There's plenty of
They're going to take
there's-
that on the chin
There's
in the
plenty
meantime.
of time. I don't think so. I think it's possible we get like in Q1 up a little bit, but I think like for the rest of the year, I expect 30-year to go down. I think 30-year is going to moon after that because I think longer term there's some serious structural inflation issues, but I don't think those are going to rear their head on the 30 like this year. That's like longer term stuff. This year is just. It's just like the short end stuff. It's just the inflation play.
Like I don't realize why people want to buy a 10-year when they can buy a 1 month at a higher rate and just keep rolling that over at like for more money. Like
If you buy a 1 month and roll it over, you're going to get wrecked because the 1 month rate throughout the year is going to get repriced lower. Like if like the Fed has to cut because a recession hits, then you get wrecked on that trade, right? Like I'm not making the 30-year trade necessarily to collect a coupon. It's like it's a bet on the price, and it's like a bit of a hedge against some other elements of my portfolio. It's some like diversification in my portfolio, and like that's why I have it. Like I'm
not seeing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's fine.
wouldn't be the first trade I've fucked up, and it's not going well so far. But it's short.
On the last episode, I didn't push back hard enough, and that's the reason why I'm testing a little more. Because in my mind at the last one, I was like, that doesn't sound right to me. So I'm just probing a little harder. This
If
time.
you buy the 30 because we're in a recession, then like we're like it's already like repriced, right? Like if the Fed just starts panic cutting, and bond yields like go down, like that meat of that trade's already sort of played out,
I think that's like what you're buying. Like that's what you're playing.
Yeah, I'm playing getting in before that happens, right? Like if they next meeting comes and they just emergency cut like 100 points,
But like you're the guy who's saying that like everyone's got so much money and savings, labor's so good, like there's no sign of a recession. So it's like, why are you betting that way?
Yeah,
I
why
didn't
not
say there's
why
no
not take
sign
this
of a
bet in
recession.
June?
I said the recession is longer out than people are pricing, right? So because the recession's longer out than people are pricing, like this is not good for risk, because like risk is really begging for the Fed to come in to slash rates, to kind of like mop up the floor and like have everybody just kind of go long risk again. But like a protracted like economy that just kind of keeps chugging along, even if it's like not really crushing, like inflation's still up, that's going to be rates continuing to go higher or just staying higher for longer. It's QT continuing. Like this stuff is not bullish for risk at all. But I think it's like really important to like, you know, talk about your time horizons on this, right?
Yeah, timing definitely matters.
You know, same thing with like the oil trade. Like I'm not expecting oil to go to 200 in February.
But I do like that long oil trade. Timing matters there too.
Yep.
Yeah. And like, I'm sure some people are like, why are you betting on a recession and thinking that oil is going to $200? And it's kind of because like, I think oil is maybe likely to be the catalyst for the recession.
Yep.
Like if you have like a pretty resilient economy, everybody opens back up again, demand for energy goes through the roof, oil spikes to 200 a barrel. Well, that's going to wreck the economy. That will wreck the economy
Right.
for sure. So you could see those two things like happening. That kind of makes sense in my brain. I'm just trying to get some trades in my portfolio that aren't all like long, short, like ADA.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I got a good one for you. Short Microstrategy.
Yeah, I actually want to talk about MicroStrategy a little bit. I have it in my notes here after we finish the round. Anyway, that wasn't even my alfalfa round. Like I don't know. Like
It wasn't?
No, he asked
We just
questions.
did a half of a podcast.
But
already.
I didn't say anything. He wanted to press my bond trade, which I appreciate. I want
might
to stress
have-
test my ideas. I don't. Main position continues to be like long Bitcoin against short L1s, like ADA and
That sounds
AVAX
right.
are
That
like the
sounds right
biggest
to me.
ones.
Yeah.
That's been a money printer. I keep having that. The only thing I'm doing differently this week, I started doing some farming again. I've been farming with guessing Gearbox.
This sounds bad.
Yeah, experts only, but you can get up to like 22% on ETH in it. It's basically like a leveraged protocol that's sort of tricking people, I think, into pledging ETH to borrow with like a rate that I don't think is realistic.
What,
but that means if
blockchain
you're
is
the
it
one
on?
borrowing it, you're doing
Okay.
great. It's on ETH.
Okay.
Yeah, and like don't put all your money in this for the love of God. Like I have like 2% of my ETH in it, but like I'm poking around in the farming waters again, and
Nice,
there's not a lot there, unfortunately. So that's about all I can give you right now. Anyway, Armand, sorry for that.
No.
Armand's looking at me
I
like,
enjoyed that.
you motherfucker.
No, I just felt like I was going to title that episode "The Alfalfa Round," which, by the way, could be a great episode. Could be a great money episode. When not a lot in
this
this
is
market
the point of
for
the
that,
round,
but
Armand. It's supposed to be a back and forth. I
know
want to have back and forths.
you
I want
love the back and
I
forth
want to
on
dunk
the
on Nick's
alfalfa.
triangles, and I want Eric to
Yes.
tell me that my long bond
But
trades
they
are
want
incredibly dumb.
the rapid fire. You want the discourse. I think the right
As long
answer
as there's
is somewhere
meat,
in the middle.
as long as there's meat there,
Yeah.
it's all good.
Anyway, why don't you tell us what you're doing, Armand?
What am I doing? I'm enjoying the best week of the year.
It's a great week.
I get high every year from this week. From this last 2 weeks, honestly. Like the Christmas and post-Christmas up until New Year's for me just has this like incredible magical feeling to it. Nothing ever replicates it. No
I
vacation.
feel like you
no
poo-pooed
nothing.
my Christmas music take though. You kind
What?
of hated on that. No,
I like Christmas. What do you mean? What
you
did I
like
say?
Christmas?
maybe it was Nick. Maybe it was Nick.
No, I shut it down.
yeah,
I
Nick
sh-
didn't
yeah.
like the Christmas
The
music.
day
You
after
like-
Christmas, just shut it down. We have the
we
Christmas
don't
tree.
look
still.
that alike, okay? Can you?
No, I'm just saying. I'm with you. I love Christmas music. I
my
love the whole
Christmas tree
spirit.
has
I don't
turned on.
love-
The star is shining.
I love the whole
In the
energy. I
face
love
of
the
Nick's
spirit. I love.
Scroogery.
Look at how Christmassy that
Yeah, it's
San
like-
Diego background
It's
looks.
so happy.
Yeah,
like
it's beautiful.
I'm just
So-
happy.
It's so paradisey. I'm a big fan, not so much of like Christmas music. I was not the one that poo-pooed that. I like some of it. Some of it I find repetitive and just too much. But no, Christmas music aside, this week to me is really important. It's always been really important ever since I became an adult. It's like this opportunity to just sit back and reflect. And we obviously did an entire episode around annual reviews and annual planning. If you haven't listened to that, you should definitely listen to that. But that feeling still continues for me. And I guess my alfalfa is just like using it wisely. You only get this once a year. And while you could look at it the way you look at it, Nick, in the sense that it's just another quarter in which it is
Scrooge.
also this like beautiful.
But I did rethink it. There is like this natural momentum to the beginning of the new year, and you should use it.
You should use it.
Yeah.
You got to use it. And most importantly, I think more than planning, it's reflecting. So I used to be I've looked back at a lot of the plans that I've set for myself over the years. And most of the time I miss by at least 50%. And I've often looked back at some of my plans and my goals, and I'm just like, man, I was so far off. I set these like lofty goals. I don't know who's the originator of this quote, but it's like most people overestimate what they can get done in a year, but they underestimate what they can get done in 10, in a decade. And it's so true. Like if you look at your life over the past decade, it's fucking remarkable where you are today and the goals that you set for yourself. But we often set these like very big lofty goals for the year, which then led me to believe that what's more important than the planning is often the review process. And so what I've typically done, what we talked about in the last episode, is sitting down and I don't think I got specific about it. So to get specific, it's like sitting down and taking a sheet of paper or a document and just having 2 columns, and it's like highlights and lowlights, or positive and negative is what Tim Ferriss does. And Tim Ferriss, I dropped this in the Discord in the Life channel, I think. He calls it a past year review. I sent this to you guys as well. It's literally just 2 columns, positive, negative. Look back over your calendar. Look at every event, every person you spent time with, every obligation you had, and ask yourself, was this a positive or negative experience? Not every single one, but the most important ones. And doing that was really powerful this year. And I'm spending more time on the review process this year than I am on the planning process. Like I think that the goals and the North Star is very important. But making sense of the past and determining how to spend time in the present is arguably more important. Because if I can get clarity on where I got the most results, where I had the most amount of friction or stress or anxiety or whatever it might be, I can learn what to avoid and where to spend my time. And how you calendar your year is the most important part of this whole thing. So
at the risk of making this more of an Alfalfa episode, can I ask a question about that?
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you actually do that? So you actually go to Jan 1 on your calendar, or you go in your text messages?
So Techno King, open up Google Calendar is what I do first. I love my Google Calendar.
Well, you're like a much more calendar oriented than
guy.
Sort of this side of the table.
Yeah, this is the calendar side of the table. So I open up Google Calendar on desktop. I go back to Jan 1. I look at it on a week-by-week basis. I'm looking at my week view. And I'm sitting there and I'm taking in, and I've got my different colors for my different calendars, right? I've got my steno calendar. I've got my personal calendar. And I'm seeing what I've done. And I'm taking it in, and I'm like, okay, pickleball with Steven. I poo-pooed it when he first said, let's go play pickleball. But okay, I ended up liking it.
2 times. Don't act like you play pickleball.
I liked it. So I put it in the, highlights category.
That's a positive.
And then I go, okay, yeah, golf or whatever it is. And then I had that obligatory meeting. That was fucking terrible. I'm not doing meetings for just coffee meetings or networking meetings. I'm going to put those aside. I put that in the negative calendar. I put that, in the negative column. And I'm going through that on a week-by-week basis. Yeah. Everything. What's so funny is there were very, very, very few work-related things in either the positive or negative column. Most of what actually makes a person happy or sad revolves around people, activities, experiences. It was my travels. It was the new activities I picked up, like golf or pickleball or whatever it was. It was not like meetings and work accomplishments. Like there were very few work accomplishments in my positive or highlights category. I just think we over-optimize for the work so much in the Western world in America, which reminds me of another thing I posted. Did you guys see that in the lounge? About the American versus European away message?
Yes.
Do you remember it, by the way? You can help me out here if you remember it.
You were
It was
like American out of office. Like, sorry.
No,
I'm
go
out
with the
of
European one
office.
first. It was European
European
one.
out of office. Sorry, I'm camping. I'll be back
In like August.
September.
Like message and like hit me up in like 2 months. And then American out of office is like, hey, I'm having an emergency kidney surgery.
I'll still be available.
Here's my cell phone. If you need me, please call me. And I edited it by saying like, and here's my 3 other colleagues that you can contact in case. So it's just such a joke. We over optimize so much for work in the in America in particular. But not to go into a tangent, we also produce an incredible amount of innovation and technology. That's the price we pay. All right, so I'll wrap my alfalfa with a quote from a book that really stood out to me this week. Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. Really stood out to me.
Meditations? What is that?
That's basically just
Nice
Sadhguru.
job. No, it's meditations.
No, it's like Sadhguru. Like,
Marcus?
you just like how you
Marcus
react to.
Aurelius.
I'm not saying he invented it. I'm just saying it's the stuff he said.
Yes.
I'm not gonna do this.
You're fine.
You keep tricking me with your non-money alfalfa, and then I go on a tangent about.
I'm trying to
meditation.
I'm trying to turn money into life.
I'm just trying to get rich over here, sir. By the way, that was just as long as my alfalfa.
By the way, path to getting rich.
Getting
yes.
rich is something I'm definitely not doing right now.
Someone take me back to MicroStrategy.
All right.
All right. By the way, the MicroStrategy is a hard left turn. MicroStrategy chart, the stupidest chart I've ever seen. It's just like it's like a patient dying of a heart attack, and you got a little thing, and he's dead.
You know
what's
what's
got
wild?
like one more little jolt, but then he's dead again.
So people can't see this, but like, you know what's wild is it was around in the, I'm guessing that was the 1999 .com bubble. Is that
Yes,
right?
it is still down 96% from its all-time highs in the
That's
.com.
such a good point to mention, because we just went through something that's akin to a .com bubble right now, and like people think, oh, just give it 2-3 years, we'll be at all-time
We
highs.
need to show these charts, by the way.
We do.
on
I
the
mean,
episode.
this MicroStrategy chart makes like the Solana chart look like a nice little like log cabin. It is just
The fact that this thing
Alexander, Georgia.
was around in 1999 and still has never reached all-time highs ever again. Okay, so I think we touched on this like many episodes ago, but like the NASDAQ itself, it took 17 years to recapture
I hate
its
that stat.
highs
I hate it.
from the .com bubble.
I hate
like-
everything about that.
And what we're in right now is that. It is that.
How
could
certain
be.
are you of
Could
that?
be.
Fairly.
Personally, yeah.
99.
over-
like, yeah.
99%.
Yes.
That we're going to see a 2-decade.
I'm not saying the timing's the same. What I'm saying, like, so
Yeah.
I look back and I looked, like, this is on my own volition, like, not for the pod, but I remember some of the things I looked up. So, because I was probably like 14 years old, but I was running my own little portfolio at this time. So the darlings of that era were like Oracle, Microsoft, Amazon, and you know, this is like just top of my head, but like Oracle took 17 years to recapture its 2000 high. Microsoft was also like 17 years. Amazon 9 years. But like, I think that's indicative of the fact that we might not be in for this, you know, like Fed pivot and then we're back type of move,
Yeah.
which I don't think people are sort of ready for.
Well, no, because I think inflation will appear right back up as soon as we start printing again, like within 6 months, 9 months.
God, but doesn't that like here's my like pushback on that. It's like inflation itself props up asset prices. There's like asset price inflation. You know, like, you know, if we're priced in dollars and dollars are becoming less valuable, then that actually helps asset prices.
Right. But I agree with you. I mean, I think like we shouldn't assume that we just keep going in these cycles, these like Bitcoin halvening cycles. And,
right. And I think like we've been misled by that COVID dump, sort of V-shaped recovery.
Mm-hmm.
We've been misled, and I think people are expecting, oh, here's what dumps look like. They don't always.
They are cycles in a way, though, aren't they? Still, like,
I mean, yeah,
They're
but I think
just
people are
not-
used to like 3 or 4 year cycles.
Yeah.
And we could be in for a chop for 2 or 3 years, and you know.
I think there's a good chance that we actually hit like a generational cycle after this, and we all paper hand it because now we're conditioned to
That's
think
the
that
fear.
we're going to do this again. But actually, there's just so much cash sitting on the sidelines and everything, and like everybody just capitulate. They're like, fine, money printing. We got to compete with China, and then we go to like 400K Bitcoin and we all sell it at like
Okay,
100.
so
but
let me
that's where you need to be
and
aware
then we
of
miss
the
out
meta-
on the next.
let me
That's
support
400%.
this. Let me support this. Like I actually
Yes.
agree. Like there is that for me. Like if ETH goes to 2,700, like I'm gonna be out entirely, and that will be my downfall probably, because it's like what I'm seeing is like what we talked about in the Discord lately. It's like so much money has been created in the last 18 months that like $2,700 Bitcoin doesn't, or sorry, $2,700 ETH, or like 16K Bitcoin doesn't mean what it used to. You know, like to the point where it's like it can go higher and it still doesn't mean what it used to. And like I'm still like, anchoring to an old bias.
Did you see what I tweeted at Moon Overlord?
Well, yeah, one of the things that made me think like, why are you long fucking 20-year bonds?
Like, well, I'm not going to go down that road. I have a very good reason for it. But,
Sorry, derail.
But no, he's tweeting like savings rate is collapsing. Nobody has any money. Everything's going to hell. I see this a lot. Like the savings rate isn't how much savings people have. It's the rate that they're currently saving at, right? The actual amount of money that people have is insane. Like I showed you guys this. Like, have you guys seen the?
So the savings rate is super low, but the actual
actual
is
raw
high.
amount of money in checkable deposits, like
This is
according to the Fed,
This is
like
sidelined money.
insane. Like the amount of money that we
Yeah.
just basically created during the crisis, and a lot of
I
this
don't know
money
who these
was.
people are though. I'm like so fully invested, and like savings to me just is not a way that I've been living because of the bull run that we just went through.
I'm one of them.
Like-
Like a bunch of money flowed to me that I probably didn't deserve, but like it just came to me via all this like stuff that happened. Like
Yeah.
I
just-
had a negative tax return one year, and it's not because my money's like sporadic, and the government just started sending me all these checks because like I made. But like I have like these years where I have like these big windfalls and stuff, and like it happened to coincide with COVID, and then they just kept
By the way, how do we
mailing me stuff.
define savings? Are we talking about literally cash in banks?
This
How
metric
do
on the
they
Fed is
measure the
literally
volume?
checkable deposits, like money in
Checkable.
So hold
money
on,
in
like
checking accounts.
let me like try to, we say bifurcate. Let's like trifurcate this because I don't think that there's like, I'm with you. Like it doesn't make sense to me.
Doesn't make sense to me.
But I think when you,
Because I used to have a lot more.
Yeah. So-
just checkable deposits.
I think there's probably like three categories in which I'd place folks, which is like, there's like really traditional people, right? Who are like earning salaries of their jobs, investing in their 401k. 401k dipped a little bit, but like not dramatically like
Right.
like our
They've been
like
checking in a savings.
yeah. And those
know.
guys are probably fine, and those guys probably have a lot of cash because they're still
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's like on the other side of the spectrum, there's like the crypto native folks, and these guys like rode the wave all the way up and then all the way down, and they probably don't have much left. Like they're probably coffers are empty.
Yeah,
Whether
right.
you did it right or wrong.
Right, like because you could have like dollar cost averaged in, you could have done anything you want to do. It's like
way to have played
wrecked.
it
Like
and,
you're
and not be
just
there.
wrecked. Like
Yeah.
I think that leads me to this third category, which is like the Stevens, which is like the advanced crypto player, which is like, no, I timed it right. I sold the top. I've been through a bear market before. Like I knew that this was going to be, like up and then
I'm
down.
sitting on USDC.
Yeah. Now
And,
the majority
like,
of my shit
penguins.
is USDC and that
Just
me
to
is-
clarify, cartoons that are penguins.
But that's like a third category because I think we focus a lot of our attention on crypto, and we're probably talking to a lot of these people that have been like up high and then down low.
Right.
But then there are also these people like who played it right, like rode the high, got out.
Absolutely.
But then there's also like way more that are like the trads that like didn't participate in any of it, and they're like, yeah, we're fine.
Yeah.
I guess what I was trying to get at is that what you are saying is possibly true. And I feel like what everybody has been saying, even though it sounds different, is maybe true. And it just like speaks to the market like causing max pain at all time. Like it's entirely possible that everybody in crypto right now, and I think this is true, is still sort of in la la land. And they think like, oh, bottom's basically in, we're just going to go back up. I think it's entirely possible that that's not true, but also we do go back up and then we all sell way too early because we're like, nope, 2,700 ETH, and then it goes to 20,000. all these things can happen. It can wreck all of us. It
the-
can liquidate everybody on the way down, and then we just like get out on the way up, and then we say like, maybe it is a new paradigm. Maybe we'll capitulate and buy like 15K ETH. Be like, no, it's definitely.
I would be so guilty of that. Like I just know myself.
It sounds like something you wouldn't do in advance, but just like it's inconceivable in 2016. You're like when ETH's $30, like, I'm gonna like buy it again at 1,200, and it's gonna be a deal. You'd be like, I'm never buying it at 1,200.
The only reason it goes back up in strength is because the money printer gets turned
So
on,
much money,
right?
and there's so much money on the sidelines.
Okay, so
That's a good
point.
This is what I wanted to point out about Microstrategy. This was like a bit of a tangent, but like the .com bubble, when the .com bubble popped, we hadn't yet created all of this cash. But now we've done QE, infinity, government fiscal stimulus, basically for a decade and a half. A lot of this money actually was quote unquote smart because apparently it has been sitting in cash accounts or cash equivalents. And it is
the
still
reverse
there.
repo facility is a good example of that, right? It's $2.2 trillion
So
just sitting there.
There is a lot of dry powder, and maybe the market's right. Maybe like the generalized market is smart. Like we're not seeing it because we're looking at Tesla down 80%, but actually there's all this cash that's just been sitting in whatever it is, short dated treasuries or literal cash, and it's just waiting to deploy. Like maybe we have one more super bubble. Maybe we do. Maybe like this in the bigger picture is just the makings of an even greater, even stupider bubble that we can't
Like
conceive of right now.
Suzu super cycle.
Maybe Suzu was right all along, except he got liquidated. And it's totally
Wrong time.
Yeah, you just timed it wrong, man.
yeah, it's totally plausible to me, especially if you think about how this plays out for like politicians and everybody involved in the position of the U.S. and like I don't know, I could definitely see it happening. It's something that's definitely on my bingo card. I'm not saying it's 100%, but it's a scenario that like I'm definitely
like
considering.
I'm like side eyeing your MSTR chart. It doesn't doesn't emulate the Nasdaq very well, right? Because it basically just went massive spike in the .com bubble, and then it just was dead for 20 years. But the Nasdaq actually, like, it had that massive spike and then it crashed, but then it gradually came back. Like it did have like a slow climb, an ascent back to its all-time high. And what I'm imagining is something that's more similar to that rather than like what we're looking at with like MSTR. Like MSTR.
Didn't you say yesterday to me that the Bitcoin that MSTR holds is worth more than the market cap of the company?
That's
that
true.
correct?
That's true.
That's true. So what do you think about that? Because you have like a traditional value-based, almost like Warren Buffett style training. So
Yeah.
is that scream a value buy or is
No.
that
Wait, separate from the market cap of the company, the Bitcoin that they hold.
Yeah, because the business itself is valued at like $1.8 billion, but they have $2.4 billion of Bitcoin on their balance sheet.
Wow.
Okay.
So tell me why I shouldn't just mortgage my house to buy
so
MicroStrategy.
this is beautiful. I'm so glad you asked. Like, it's simple. They don't own that Bitcoin. They bought it with debt. It's not theirs.
But only a little of it, right?
Great question. Yes. Like
I love asking great questions.
yeah, like here's what happened. Like they bought Bitcoin with debt and equity. Like they sold MSTR stock. They made $1 billion selling MSTR stock and poured that into Bitcoin. I would say that's a good move. Like they profited $1 billion selling their stock at $770. It's currently at $140. That's a good move. You sell
They're
it,
still up on that, right?
but Bitcoin
Yeah,
went down.
but
But
not
like,
as much
but
as
at
that
least they
stock.
didn't borrow to make that trade.
Yeah.
Because Bitcoin is clearly down. What they did wrong is that they borrowed dollars to buy Bitcoin at 30K, and now it's at 16. So they basically like incinerated $2 billion by buying Bitcoin on debt, but $1 billion of that they actually made back because they sold their shitty equity at 700, and now it's at 140. So on the net basis, they've basically made like negative $1 billion buying Bitcoin. Here's my analysis of the stock itself. Okay, so MSTR is at 140 today. I think like 2 days ago it was at 160. Probably 5 days ago it was at 200. This is actually hurting me because I'm selling puts.
So you might have to buy.
I repositioned. I will not buy.
Okay.
No, I want to be short this stock.
How much lower can it go?
Here's like some good alfalfa. Like I sold 75 strikes expiring next Friday. 75 strikes are paying me $40 a contract. This type of return pretty much only exists when people think this thing is going to go bankrupt, like in 9 days. It's not going bankrupt in that. Like it won't. It will not do that.
Wait, what was your trade?
I'm selling the 75 strike on MSTR,
Okay.
What expiration?
That's very low.
and that was when MSTR was at 160. Now it's at 140.
What's the expiration on it?
Next Friday.
Oh my God.
75.
So what was how do you look at the return on that? Do you look at like an annualized yield on your premium?
No, great question.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at return on options trades, specifically selling options, you put up basically zero. So your ROI is like infinite. So there's like this thing called covered return, which is like what would I get if I if I got put to this, at 75, 100 shares per contract.
Right.
Then you would say like, what's my return on the premium versus that? So it's called the covered return, and that's what I measure it on. And that was very high. I'm getting 10 bips a day on that. That's high. That's high selling premium.
I actually wanted to ask you about
36% a year.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking good.
So-
And like that, that expires next Friday. Like
There's a juiciness factor.
I want to get to Tesla, guys. So let's wrap MicroStrategy soon.
Okay.
I had an interesting
I
question
know.
for Eric.
I know. You guys can
All
go
right.
forever on this.
So we're notorious for bashing Bitcoin because it doesn't do anything. There's no yield on it. We're Ethereum people, full stop. But is there a way
I
to?
don't like that label, but okay.
I mean, we are at the moment. We can swing on a dime. But let's be
Well
honest.
said.
We like the ETH, and I think we like the ETH because it's just it's
some money.
it's the best. It's the best asset. It is. But if somebody wanted to own Bitcoin, is there a way for them to own Bitcoin via MicroStrategy and then to generate like a yield on it, like through options? Like, is there any crazy pricing that you see because the market is like assuming that Bitcoin is basically going to zero? But if you don't think that, so you're going to buy MicroStrategy, and then you can capitalize on that by also selling options and making some income. Like, is there a play there?
Yeah, I think what you're suggesting is probably true. It's not today. So MicroStrategy has they have a EV, enterprise value, of like $4 billion. This is like kind of akin in like crypto space to like fully diluted value.
Okay.
So their enterprise value is $4 billion.
Yeah.
That's still high, that's still very high.
Wait, that's 2x their Bitcoin holdings, right?
2x their Bitcoin holdings, exactly right. And that would basically place their, SaaS business at $2 billion, right? The SaaS business was at $2 billion prior to buying any Bitcoin, but that was in like the height of a bull market. So like that SaaS business probably should be discounted substantially because that SaaS business is actually losing money now. It's like generating negative cash flow.
Oh
So
God, that's terrible.
Wow, really?
yeah, so like that should be discounted significantly. I was looking at what was the price of MSTR during like the COVID crash, like March of 2020. I think it got down to about $90. So that was like a 40% discount from, like prior to the COVID crash. That sounds reasonable as like a standalone for just like that operating business.
Right.
But we're approaching there, and they have a lot of Bitcoin. Here's something that you guys might not have seen. Just yesterday, they sold equity. They sold
MicroStrategy did?
yeah.
Yesterday?
MSTR sold stock to buy more Bitcoin just yesterday.
Oh, and they're already underwater. Dude, Sailor bought after like the biggest crash. He's still underwater. I saw that. Like I read their release. They're like, we bought 3,000 Bitcoin. Their average buy price was 17.8. They're already like 10% underwater. He's just always underwater.
So
I can't even believe it.
So here's like, because we did that MSTR episode like a while back, right? And the emphasis was always on, is is like the Bitcoin holding, are the Bitcoin holdings going to like bankrupt them?
Right.
But he's leaning further and further into this. But the beautiful thing is that he has this equity that he can just sell down to plebs, like to TradFi. He can sell down his MSTR equity to buy more Bitcoin to make sure that the balance sheet is okay for the Bitcoin side. And all that leads me to believe is that like, and this shouldn't be groundbreaking, like Saylor only cares about Bitcoin. He doesn't care about MSTR anymore. Like he sold MSTR.
That says a lot. And we questioned this during that episode.
Exactly.
We questioned how far he would
So
drive
he sold
with
$50 million,
narrative.
$46 million worth of MSTR stock at an average price of $200. Good sale. It's at 140 now. I actually think that he's like driving the sales.
Yeah.
But he sold, $50 million worth of stock and then bought Bitcoin with it. So like that actually enhances their balance sheet position. Like, because before we said at $3,500 Bitcoin, he'll be margin called.
Yep.
Now that he has more Bitcoin, that slowly enhances his balance sheet position.
And it helps that he didn't use debt this time. He used equity. So,
yeah.
Okay.
So like all I'm thinking about is like I don't want to be a MSTR equity holder. To Steven's question, like you don't want to arbitrage this thing in a way that you're like the sucker buying MSTR when Saylor doesn't give a shit about it. He just wants more Bitcoin. But like I do see a situation in which like down the road, imagine like you're down the line and like the SaaS business gets just like absolutely decimated in terms of valuation. And then the Bitcoin component becomes like the entire valuation of this thing. Like there certainly could be a Warren Buffett moment where you're like,
Okay.
I could buy like 80 cents on the dollar.
So the way in which like Saylor doesn't care about MSTR, is that similar to the way like Elon at this point doesn't care about TSLA?
Are you trying to segue?
Yeah.
Steven, I don't try to segue. I am a professional.
Well,
seguer.
the fact that I
I'm the
sniffed out your segue.
No, that is the cleanest segue of all time. Like you can't get better. If you hadn't called it out, it would have just
Well,
been
I thought Eric was going to tell me when to buy
Flawless.
MicroStrategy in my
This is a flawless
pension plan
segue.
that can only buy stonks. And now I have to talk about Elon.
Yeah, you do.
Bottom line is I'm just selling way out of the money puts all the time because people think that like MSTR is going to go bankrupt in the next 9 days. So like I'm happy to sell those lottery tickets to people and
9 days seems aggressive.
right. And like my
unless
goalposts keep
this
moving.
can't become an MSTR episode. So Nick, what do you think about Tesla being down 43% in December?
I don't touch that thing.
I know you don't.
It's just too.
I know you
it doesn't
don't.
trade on anything. I don't know. It can rally. There's a lot of people who short it, then don't short it. I don't know. There's just too much emotions going on in that stock. It actually reminds me
Is
of
that
Bitcoin.
the key though? Is it because of the controversial figure behind it, the emotion behind it, the market sentiment constantly fluctuating? Is that why you think most people should stay away from it, or is that just
It's not for
your
me. I mean, I
personal
also don't trade off
stonks?
individual stocks.
Individual,
So
yeah.
I realized early on in my career
Our
that
boy
I'm
Jam,
terrible at
our
them,
boy
so.
Jam would say that this is the inverse of the GameStop situation. Like
People adding on shorts.
retail understanding, oh my God, I can make money on the downside. And then they start buying puts, and then dealer positioning then influences the stock price on the downside. And then it becomes this, inversion of the gamma squeeze. And that's also what he's calling for in Q1.
Yeah.
I mean, might be a good time to buy a Tesla. I mean, it is a good time to buy Tesla if you believe this company will be around and will keep shipping out software updates, because the cost is down, like literally from the dealership side and the used car side.
I feel like
massively.
I feel like Tesla reminds me of like a DeFi farming scheme.
Okay. This is
It's
big
like
guy.
there's all this like obfuscation going on. It's like we're gonna do this and then we're gonna go to Mars, blah, blah, blah. And like if you look at the chart, it's literally just the Ethereum chart. It's just a chart of Ethereum. It's just like a chart of liquidity.
Liquidity battery.
And it's just like we're just gonna stack on all this like stuff so that you think that you're attaching earnings to something, but like interest rates were zero, so the earnings didn't matter. It was all this like weird Hopium. We're gonna build the next generation
Couldn't
decks that
disagree
like
more.
can and it's. I mean, you can disagree
literally
all you
couldn't
want, but that's
disagree.
like literally what the chart is. The chart is literally a
No, because
liquidity
you
chart.
just made an analogy of false hopes when in fact it's almost like saying.
But it is
no-
false hopes.
Excuse
Like,
me.
it is.
Hold on. So that's like saying, "Hey, Muhammad Ali, you're talking a lot of shit, but you're number one." He's number one. He's doing everything that he needs
He's
to
the
be
number
doing
one
to be
stock
number
shiller?
one. No. Forget. I'm not correlating Muhammad Ali to Elon Musk. I'm talking about the car. The car is the best rated, safest car that's ever been made. The car has better self-driving than any other manufacturer out there. The technology that exists inside that car is unparalleled, unprecedented compared to every other manufacturer out there. So saying like you're promising these like ridiculous things is true, but you're not integrating the reality of the present day situation in your formula. Because a fair take would be they overpromise and overdeliver.
Okay, you are Mr.
and overdeliver.
Answer me a simple question, Mr. Tesla hype boy. What is
I don't even own one, by the way.
What is the price earnings multiple that Volkswagen trades at?
Well, you're shifting gears.
No, I'm
You're
not shifting
completely
gears. Like my
gears.
point about Tesla is that people who buy it and talk about it, like they talk about
No,
it
you're
as
shifting
this
gears.
like thing.
If
But
we're talking about
it's not-
if we're talking about Tesla stock, it's a different story.
But that's what we're talking about.
I double clicked on something you said. I double clicked on
What'd you double-click
one
on?
specific thing that you said about Tesla just fucking being this like mirage as a company, and I'm saying,
But it is because its
and
valuation
it
is
not.
totally detached from what exists for every
You guys
other
are-
car manufacturer
You
in
guys
the
are
world.
talking past each other.
This is always going to happen with
You
Tesla.
guys are
and
talking
Alfalfa.
past each other. Here's the crux of it. It's like Tesla is the best car on the market, fact. But they don't have the sales to support the valuation that it currently sits at, it, which is like a $350 billion market cap, because that is like 10 times
Correct.
GM's, and GM sells 10 times the amount of vehicles that Tesla does. So Tesla can sell 10 times more vehicles and still only justify GM's market cap.
Yes.
So you guys are like saying
The same
sort of the
thing.
same thing.
Yeah, and like this whole thing about like you're promising self-driving, full self-driving. It's like that's just so funny to me, because it's like you can already get in a Tesla and it basically drives for you, and no one is even close to that. So like faulting the company for overpromising or having short timelines and not hitting those timeline goals is just
Wait,
it just feels
let me ask this question to you differently.
okay.
Do you think the Tesla stock trades as though it's a company being valued with future discounted cash flows, or is it being traded basically as like a liquidity casino?
I have no idea. I can't answer that question.
Well, I can.
I
Casino.
mean, yeah.
If
But-
you
but not
thought it
just-
was being
not-
traded as a discounted cash flow thing that's rooted in what the business is going to do, you would expect the stock to look different than Ethereum. Ethereum isn't a car manufacturer. It's a made-up digital internet money. But if you look at
I
the
just wanna
stock
make it
chart,
clear
it
that
looks
you-
exactly the same.
I just want to make it clear that nothing I said had anything to do with the stock.
But you can also
So
you
we
can
were
also be
absolutely-
My
bullish.
entire conversation is about the stock and the price of the stock.
But like we're also bullish Ethereum and bullish Tesla, some of us. So it's like that can be okay as well. Like particularly over a longer period of time.
My entire point of this conversation was that the value of Tesla is derived from some like hopium kind of like obfuscation of what the company actually does. We're just removing it as far as possible from what it actually earns, what it can earn in the future, what the company is. And if you look at what the stock chart looks like, it literally looks exactly like a shitcoin. And if the stock had any root
whoa,
in
whoa.
like earnings,
Don't call Ethereum a shit.
sorry, a blue chip crypto coin is exactly what the Tesla chart looks like. It's still today, I think, trades at like a 34x after it's been like entirely wrecked. It's down 74% on the year, right? So like,
I also don't know the comparisons that you made are fair. I don't know enough about this, but I think comparing it to like Toyota or these car manufacturers like Volkswagen is not fair.
Well,
This is much more than that.
Okay, so Ben Cowan
much more
just
than
did a video series on Tesla itself. It was called like the ultimate bubble. He said that like you don't need to compare it to Toyota or Volkswagen, but you can compare it to other like high flying stocks like Netflix and like Facebook.
Would make more sense.
And those companies have like gone down like further than their their pre-COVID highs. Tesla hasn't. If Tesla were to go down below its pre-COVID high, I think Ben Cowan said it was like at $22.
Interesting.
Oh, and like he also said he's like, I don't think it will go that low. I am a believer in Tesla and like the
So it's
future of
actually
the
in
company.
great shape.
But like it is holding up.
It's in great shape.
I think like you can disregard its future prospects and just be like, risk assets are getting fucking hammered, and that is probably the thesis.
But it's not just that. It's Elon.
To wrap this part up, Elon sent an email to employees, told them not to worry about the stock stuff. And he said, long term, I believe very much that Tesla will be the most valuable company on earth.
I think he's right.
Good little pumper.
Damn, he's a good
what
pumper.
Elon
He's
said,
right.
by the way, I listened to some. He did an hour-long Twitter Spaces with just some retail people like answering questions and stuff, which I think is very cool.
Yeah.
By the way, like I think a lot of stuff he does is cool.
I'd like to hear more about that.
And what he said, I think, is accurate. He basically said in not so many words, like, look, the Fed's raising rates. Why would anybody own this stock when you can get bonds at 5%?
Right.
This company is basically priced on like long duration interest rate, and that's true. But I don't think people who buy the stock think that, or when they buy the stock, it's like it's kind of like a meme stock to them. Like Tesla in some ways is not that dissimilar from. I'm trying not to say Cardano. I don't want to say Cardano. I'm not going to say Cardano. It's like a more advanced Cardano. It's a Cardano that does some things and sells a product.
I think
But a lot of the
I
value
think that's
is
one
like,
of the most incorrect things you've ever said.
no, it's not, because
No,
the
it
degree
absolutely
of the
is.
to trade it at
Cardano
75x
Fuck
PE ratio.
all of that. Look at what the
ETH,
company
ETH
is
trades
doing.
at a 160x PE ratio. It like you can call it ETH. ETH is like a another
Yeah,
fair
and
comparison.
ETH was too high when it traded at that,
Yes.
and I sold it. Like, it's obviously true that Tesla is not Cardano, but there was an overlap where there was a selling of a dream. That's like, you can pay this crazy inflated price because in the future we're more than a car company. We're going to go to space. We're going to build robots. We're going to do all this stuff, and maybe that's true. But like,
those are
you're
even
not
Tesla promises. Those are space, dude.
Tesla only trades at this valuation because people say it's not a car company, bro. It's not a car company. You can't value it at BMW, even though BMW sells more cars for like way more profit margin. You can't value it like BMW. That's
all
literally
true.
what
Yeah.
Tesla bros say.
Yeah, that's true.
And they may be proven right. But if you bought into that dream like a year ago or 2 years ago, you're wrecked right now, you know?
I don't disagree with the fact that your Tesla bros are wrecked right now, but I just think like correlating it to this thing that is just nothing but a pipe dream and it's accomplished nothing and it's basically Cardano.
No, you're
wrong.
straw manning me.
No,
Well, you
I-
did
I-
say-
you
you
I
did
think
say
you
Cardano.
strawmanned.
No.
You did
I
say
think you
Cardano.
When I
strawmanned.
said Cardano, I was like, this isn't exactly accurate. But I want to draw an analogy to crypto where we price things basically on what they might do in the future.
Don't say
not on what
Cardano,
they can
though.
do.
I just
Like,
think if
say
you were
ETH.
doing a
Say
fair
ETH.
comparison, the comp would be different.
Comp would be
the
ETH.
comp might be what? Like,
Comp would be ETH.
Yeah, I think so. I think ETH is full of future promise and proof of stake will work and it will be fine.
And there's like a lot of a ton
will
of
be this,
users.
will
like
be that, or-
everyone
yeah.
says it's the best.
Yeah,
Like it's
like
like a better comp.
It's money, it's ultrasound money, and like
Right.
all these things are just nothing but promises.
It'd be like it would be as if Tesla hadn't sold any cars to call it Cardano.
By the way, there's this like charismatic figure that happens to lead it as well. He's like super smart, genius,
yeah.
bro. You know, like it's way more similar
Right.
to ETH than it is to Cardano. I just think it gets a lot of flack, more flack than is necessary. I'm not this like, at all a Tesla bro. Like I'm just not. I don't own enough of it to be, and I don't care enough to like get behind it. But I think those comparisons are false. It has accomplished a lot. It's the best car on the market. You can't call Cardano that.
Absolutely.
Like how
Absolutely,
do
it's the
you
best
call it
car.
Cardano if it's the best car on the market?
But you can call ETH the best blockchain
And by the way,
on the market.
that's just one of its verticals, right? So like it has all these other verticals, and the vertical that it says we're gonna compete in, it's the best in, and so there's many other verticals remaining for it to conquer.
I'm with you. I see the upside.
Well, So we have like 9 other things on this list
Yeah.
of things that are going on in money.
Let's
Is there
go.
anything that we would like to wrap with? Maybe a quick fire round, if you guys are interested.
Which one of
and then
these
just kind of
looks-
close
I
this
should have
out.
known this entire episode.
We've got
would just
oil.
be-
We've got
Well,
D-Gods leaving Solana.
I have a question first.
yeah,
Steven.
please.
Yes.
We had valuing ETH versus Visa Amex with settlement volume. I noticed you had a tweet this week that got my attention. It also got someone else's attention because he copy pasted it directly. So you must have thought it was worth something. But can you maybe just describe what you were doing and maybe just let us know.
Oh, well, I was browsing Twitter as I do way too often. And somebody was like, explain to me why I shouldn't go all in on ETH at this price. And I was basically like, well, look, like, what does everybody say ETH is? Everybody says ETH is, and like, I want to be clear, like, I got this idea from Eric a couple episodes ago. I didn't make this up in my head, but I took it and ran with it. And I was like, what does ETH do? Everybody says it's the settlement layer for the Internet of Value, blah, 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 blah. What do we settle stuff with? Well, credit cards settle value. That's why we like them. That's how we value them in the real world, and sort of priced it against, Amex. And I was like, well, if you think ETH is equivalent to Amex, then it's worth about $600 right now, right? Just on the basis of like the value it settles. And like Amex pays a dividend as well.
Only on this component, right? Like of settlement layer.
Yes, and
Okay.
I want to be clear that I don't
No pipe
think
dreams.
that's
No monetary premium, no nothing.
Right.
Just
So I think if ETH gets to $600, right? Like if you believe in it, I think you have to go all in, because Amex isn't priced as like a massive growth company, right? So you can obviously make the case that ETH's multiple should be higher. And I also think ETH, like, one of the things we don't understand about cryptos is how to value them, and I would say that they are partially valued on their network value in some particular way. Like, you can value them on the cash flows, or what do you want to call it, like a stock buyback, because there's the buy and burn basically element that's kind of built into it. But also they have this element of being a currency in them, which I think is the most difficult thing to value, right? Like, and if you go into economic textbooks and you're like, how do I value a currency versus the dollar, right? They're not going to give you a formula, right? They're just going to be like, well, these things make the currency appreciate versus another currency. And one of the things they say is like the relative value of the economy versus this economy. And it's like a very sort of vague, nebulous term, but like, I think it's the same thing in ETH, because it's both this like currency, but it's also like a commodity hybrid. And then it's also sort of like a tech company rolled in. I don't think we know how to price it yet, but I was just trying to make like a kind of for somebody to ground their like kind of ETH, bull-tardishness into some like quantifiable thought.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's like that's like the
and
floor.
granted, you did take the last 7 days of settlement and annualized it to come up with a valuation, right?
Yeah. And
So-
that's another important caveat, because you could say, well, that's a bear market thing. It's going to be 10x that, and maybe you're right. But I could also say, well, maybe it could go lower,
Right.
and then you're looking at a lower value. It's very hard to kind of price that in.
Anyway, I thought that was a
Whoa, your tweets are getting a lot of views.
So hold on, like
So as I'm tweeting about penguins,
let's just give me a little clarity,
Views,
because
new metric.
did you say that ETH and Amex should be the same, or are they the same currently? Market cap, where are they at?
no, I said if you valued ETH like you valued Amex, it would be about $600. But I also said that I'm not saying you should do that. But
but if you just
like,
want to look at that
Yeah,
analysis.
yeah. So like, I would just say immediate analysis on that piece is that there's so much upside to ETH, right? Like, because you have like the settlement layer of transactions, but then you could have like synthetic asset market making. Like, you could like replace the New York Stock Exchange like fairly easily. Like, DYDX exists as a standalone app on its own. Like, it will be on its own chain soon, but it's like, that handles a lot of crypto trading. Like, ETH can handle like trading very easily, and we're not ascribing any value to that. But like ETH, I think on our latest episode, I said like ETH today is trading the exact same market cap as Charles Schwab is. And Charles Schwab doesn't even handle
Yeah,
it.
I love this comp.
Schwab doesn't have any fucking trading value either. It's just like
Yeah.
literally a brokerage house that sends it to Citadel. So like, like Schwab just handles retail volume. Like ETH feels incredibly undervalued when you zoom out like that. But I like having these like tether points to be able to understand like, okay, where do we stand now?
I agree with you totally. And I think the bull case for ETH is that like, well, credit cards settle credit card payments, but ETH could settle trades, all credit cards, all trades, all payment, NFT settlement, like basically anything that is financial settlement. Plus some additional market cap of computation
real estate,
and like real estate.
Real estate?
Like,
Yeah, like-
once you start adding all these things together, you're like, oh,
It's beyond
yeah,
money.
it's way beyond. It's obvious.
Or
Like we obviously all think it's worth more than Amex, or we wouldn't be here like talking about it. And like we only say this because we want to buy more ETH because we think in the short term it's going to go down. We don't think it should go down. We just say that's what it's going to do. And the only reason we care about that is so we can buy more of it because we're long-term bullish. Like cards on the table, we all believe that. But it's possible to be mega long-term Uber Bowl, but also be like, oh God, like stuff doesn't look good right now.
Here's something that like Hoffman would be proud
my
of.
beliefs
Like,
on Tesla.
like I
Continue.
will like David Hoffman.
Let it go.
We'd be proud of this. I plan on denominating my wealth in ETH. Like I actually will denominate how I feel about my
Give
wealth.
up the dollars.
No, I mean like I will need them, but like I will be like how much ETH do I own? How much do I target to own? And that will be like my guiding light to like sort of my wealth strategy.
Yeah.
Good point.
Man, if I knew I could just earn 5% for the rest of my life, oh, that'd be wonderful.
Well, you can just buy T-bonds right now.
Well, I mean on ETH.
I get some bad news for you. That's
know.
not going to persist the rest
No,
of the year.
I'm saying if I knew, that would be my retirement strategy. Like it'd be game over. for
Okay,
me.
what do you think is
Like, that would
more
be it.
overvalued, ETH versus Amex or Tesla versus BMW?
Great question.
What is more overvalued
Yeah,
right now?
right now, current prices.
I don't know the prices of BMW.
That should tell you everything you need to know.
Well, ETH trades about like I think like 2x
It's
Amex
definitely Tesla
earnings,
over
and then like
BMW
Tesla
or
is about
GM.
10x most cars.
Okay, then then Tesla.
And I feel the same way. Like I feel like when I look at ETH, like I'm like this looks undervalued. When I look at Tesla, I'm like it just looks overvalued. And there's a price where I would buy Tesla. There's certainly a price where I would buy the Dream. I don't want to be like a mega.
So that's been
hater.
grinding your gears lately. We've got another beautiful pivot for you.
Are we pivoting? The pivot.
The
tool
other
or-
thing that has been grinding your gears lately is Chamath Palihapitiya.
Shit.
Shit, did I not say it right?
Polyhopatiya.
Chamath Palihapitiya.
Fuck.
If you're gonna dunk on him, Armand, you may as well get his name.
No,
right.
I literally like prepared for that.
How many times you
Good
practice?
job.
I literally practiced.
You nailed it.
I
You nailed
literally
it.
practiced.
Do you
It's a
wanna go-
multi-syllable name.
Do you want to go? You want you just go out on a little palate cleanser? Yeah, Chamath's like annoying.
Yeah, why?
Even more so than usual. Yeah, no, this is like an episode of you know what really grinds my gears?
Yeah.
Chamath.
Can you tell me why? Because I had a moment as well that I texted the thread about where he really.
Because I listened to this
Really?
guy for years basically shield his fucking SPACs and his SoFi. And like at one point he was comparing like his little SoFi returns to Warren Buffett in an email. And then as soon as they didn't like match, he was like, yeah, you know what? I don't think we're in the, we shouldn't really be comparing ourselves to Warren Buffett anymore.
Yeah, he's into mature businesses.
He's always felt like a little bit of an inauthentic shark to me. Like he seizes on every social issue and like will virtual signal on it when it's like max opportunism. And then like the other day when he just started dunking on Freeberg after like the fusion thing, which I thought was like an incredible breakthrough for humanity.
That was what we texted about.
Yeah, I was just like,
I
you know what?
texted the Alfalfa thread. Hey, did you guys see this all-in take from Chamath
Yeah.
about fusion energy? What the fuck was that?
He doubled down again on the most
Freeberg's always been my
course he
favorite
did.
of the show.
Freeberg is the best.
Freeberg's like-
Actually,
'cause he's
Sachs
not
is my personal favorite, but Freeberg's probably the best.
Freeberg is the most likable because he's not optimizing for anything other than like his
Nothing.
love of science and like veganism.
He's not there
Yeah.
to shill a pod. He's not there to shill
But
anything.
when I first started listening to this, I had a friend group that was like, no, Freeberg's like the dork, like everybody hates him. I was like, I actually like him. He's like my favorite.
Yeah.
These are neither here nor there. I think we're misconstruing our hate for Chamath as actually he's just not as good as an investor as we imagined. Like that's all I.
There are
place
so
it
many of
as. Like,
those.
he's
there
just
are so
like a
many of those during this
growth-oriented
last
guy.
He's just
15
kind of a
years.
douche.
He
and
won.
he's like inauthentic. Like that's why I don't like him.
I
Like
think
people
it's
don't like
that he's
douchey,
inauthentic.
inauthentic people.
I think it's the inauthenticity that's bothering you because that's what bothered me during the fusion.
You're
energy
right.
thing.
Like authentic
What
douchiness
he
is like
did-
more tolerable.
That's
You can go
basically
back
Top
and look
G.
at it.
Top G's an authentic douche.
What?
What's his name? Andrew Tate.
Top G?
Top G's an
Wait,
authentic
Top
douche.
What are you
G?
talking
Wait, who's
about
Top
right
G?
now?
That's
Top
what
G.
Andrew Tate.
Top
Andrew
G is
Tate.
Andrew Tate, dude.
Wait,
So-
really?
Yeah.
Top G?
That's what they do. They go around the internet and they spam Top G.
So if we're talking about an authentic douche, that like this guy's got widespread acclaim and notoriety
Yeah.
from being a fucking douche.
Yeah.
He's
so
au-
he's an inauthentic douche?
No, he is the authentic version of a douche.
Okay.
Versus like a Chamath who is like a inauthentic.
In-
Are you
That's what
sure
I'm
he's
saying.
inauthentic? Because he talks about his like his sweater collection.
No, I actually think he like has a conflict. I think he's like a little insecure. Like
A
What
little?
gave that away? Like the
little?
shirtless like mirror selfies?
Would you give up a
no, hold
significant
on.
portion
We're
of
talking
your?
about Chamath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
yeah.
Chamath have mirror selfies?
Yes.
I mean, I don't even follow these people. I don't give a
Dude, at this point, all in is like, wow, these guys are ready to fight
But-
us.
but no.
I'm actually planning to put us all in a ring together. I don't know if you guys know about this 2023.
I mean, my least favorite of all of them is still J Cal. He's just so annoying.
See, but my
J. Cal's
respect
at least
for him
authentic.
is growing.
He's just so middle curve,
he's
but
authentic,
like he's authentically
and
middle
I don't
curve.
agree that he's middle curve. I think
No, he's so middle
no,
curve.
no,
he's
he's
middle
not
curve
middle
on
curve.
everything. It like
No,
drives me
he's not.
crazy.
No, he's not.
Yeah,
No, he's not.
I'm gonna
I
fight
literally
you over
just
this
like
later.
hate his takes.
No,
I can't.
Yeah, they're so bad
I
because they're
can't
just so
st-
like.
I can't stand a single take he has.
No,
It's
I
so
think
bad.
you're buying into the whole thing that like they have this preeminence against him. They're more wealthy.
No, I do. I
they're
literally think he's middle
smarter, they're
curve. I
trying to
literally
play
think he
smarter.
luck boxed Uber, and like his whole life is just a gigantic Uber luck box, basically.
Precisement.
Anyway, I just want to make my point. I think I used to really also agree with you, but he's grown for me because I think that like he plays an important role like between them, and I think that's important. Although his takes are not as good, yes, but he's no dummy. He's no dummy. He's not middle curve. Like I think that middle curve is really disrespectful. Actually,
Yeah, and,
I
like,
got to be honest.
I guess
Like,
when you
I don't
really-
like that.
when
Like
you
the guy
zoom
is
out.
obviously high IQ compared to like to call the person middle curve is like
I don't
It
think
just
he's that
feels-
high IQ. I literally think he's like 105 IQ.
No,
It's
no,
it's
he's
like
not.
it's a meme what we're saying.
no, it's a meme. Like
It's a meme
not
what we're
fair.
saying. We're not
But that's the
talking-
point
Like,
of
he's a
middle
smart
curve. Middle
guy.
curve is like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
are
It's all relative.
above intelligence,
It's
like
all
relatively
relative.
smart, but you sort of just repeat kind of like unoriginal, not like
It's
ground.
the joke to say to
Shattering
somebody
stuff.
who is smart.
No.
Like we're not calling him middle. Like it's like the
I
way
respect
you-
all those guys.
He's
but
mid.
I respect all those guys, but I agree that Chamath has been inauthentic, and he clearly has these like ulterior motives that he pushes hard, and he's not open about why he gets triggered or why he gets into that state that he got into during like fusion energy. Like he clearly got like into this like ulterior motive of I want to push my investment vertical and everything that you care about, Freeberg, when it comes to like this scientific like nerd hat you want to put on is worthless garbage. It doesn't matter what it will equate to in 50 years because we have the answer now. We have
He's
the answer
smartest
now.
one.
Like,
Okay, so how about
It was
when
bad.
when you guys become billionaires? That'll be cool. Like
I'm gonna dunk on you and call you
Yeah,
a
it'll
fucking
be the exact
middle
same.
curve.
Oh
yeah.
god, is Armand gonna? He's gonna turn into Chamath. He's gonna like.
Dude.
Yeah.
You know what Chamath
No
is?
way.
He's like the guy who's at like a party and like Freeberg's there and he's like a nice guy and he uses him as like a prop to dunk on him to seem cool to everybody else around him. That's
Hey,
exactly
chicks.
what he did.
Yeah,
That's
he
the,
did.
that's
Didn't
not
you
like
like
did.
the joke I just made?
He
I just
did.
can't wait till when Steven passes up the steno round and then
No,
it
he's
turns
not
into.
passing.
I'm
No.
not passing. I've been
He's not
texting him.
passing.
Like,
Oh, okay, all right.
I've been texting him. Let me in. Memes. Like,
Not passing. We're just trying to add a zero to the
Yeah.
investment.
Yeah.
That's all.
yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
we're just
well,
trying to add one little zero, Steve.
We can talk about it.
Yeah,
Your
we're a little
love
zero.
of J. Cal is not making me more bullish.
No, you know why I'm trying to love J. Cal?
No. Okay.
No, I just wanna say-
I like J. Cal.
No, I want to say because I felt like I
don't.
I
really
don't.
disliked him in the beginning, and he annoys me with his voice and stuff. Like his demeanor, his just kind of sometimes like dorkiness annoys me. But then I was like, you know what? Like it's cute. Like let me just like admire it.
No,
and
he's-
now I admire it. That's where I'm really
he's
at.
a likable, good dude, and I think he's authentic. I just think his takes have like zero alpha. That's
find it
how
likable.
I feel. But I think he's I think he's a nice guy for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
But like,
he's
I
nice.
feel like Friedberg is all those things. He's
I'd
like
be
this
friends with all
likable
these
dork,
guys.
and he's actually likable.
Oh, let me be absolutely clear. I would trade my life for all of them. So, yeah, you think I want to
Yeah.
be a billionaire and fly around in a jet and wear like $30,000 sweaters? That sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, I like all of them. I really do.
I'm just hating here from my,
What happened to All In Media?
No, I'm actually going to get us all in a ring. Like,
Yeah?
yeah, it's going to be like.
well, if that's the case, Nick's gonna
what
like
was
beat up
the-
all of them.
This will go well for us.
What was the MTV? What was
Finally
Let's choke them
win.
all out
What
in
was the
sub 7 seconds.
MTV claymation like fighting? That's gonna be
Oh
weird.
my
Oh, I forgot
God.
about that death match.
Yeah. So
Wow.
just imagine like
It's really
us
gonna
as
age us.
characters and them as characters, and then Nick just fucking elbows and knees people the whole time, and they just all die.
Imagine Chamath takes me round one. Then what do you guys do? Dude, you better fucking
no.
show up. You better show up. It's 0-1.
You got called out for having little calves, so you got to be careful.
I know that's not true.
I have, a little
I have
calf,
the
it's fine.
tiniest calves ever, so but quads, watch out. I got
quad man.
rectum quads.
Okay.
I know that's also not true.
That's so. They're like at least 36 inches.
Rectum is a fucking beast.
All right, should we consider wrapping this
All right.
episode?
Well, I think we should. Congratulations on the least alpha money episode of all time.
Agreed.
everybody.
It's the end of the year.
Sorry to all the listeners who
It's
made
the end of
$0
the
from this episode.
I feel like there was some good stuff in the
I
beginning.
feel like most.
I had fun though.
I thought there was a lot of.
Yeah,
I
this
had a lot
counter
of
trade
fun.
Stevens bonds. That's
Yeah.
good. Good
So-
Yeah,
stuff.
that's good. There you go. All right. I mean, he saved the episode, right?
I feel like that's actually high alpha.
My bonds will reign supreme. I can't wait till next year where I'm rubbing the 1 year 30 in your face.
Yeah, rubbing shoulders with Chamath.
No. No. Anyway.
All right, that was fun.
That was fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace. Bye, guys.